going to read to you from the Catholic Catechism. The Catholic Catechism has a glossary, and it has in its glossary the word contemplation. And it's actually a very useful and I think helpful description of contemplation. So I want to read that to you and then just kind of, tease it apart a little. Contemplation is, quote, a form of wordless prayer in which mind and heart focus on God's greatness and goodness in affective, loving adoration. It is to look on Jesus and the mysteries of his life with faith and love. So I want to just take that apart. Contemplation. What is contemplation? And obviously I'm speaking in a Christian context. So some of the language that I use might not be the same kind of language that a Buddhist might use or a person who is Jewish or Muslim might use. And that's okay. In fact, I think it's wonderful to have different conversations across religious traditions to deepen our understanding. But I just want to emphasize that in this context, I am speaking out of the Christian tradition. Number one, it's prayer. It's prayer. It's relational. It involves the encounter of the creature with the Creator. And it's wordless. It's silent. It's not thoughtless. It's wordless. And I think that's an important distinction. I hear critics of contemplation say, it's all about emptying the mind. I don't think we're called to empty the mind. I don't think we can empty the mind any more than we can cause our heart to stop beating. I think it's the nature of the human brain to generate thought, to generate connections and sensation, emotion, and value, and all that good stuff. But we are called into a place that's deeper than our language, that's deeper than our wordiness. And if your brain is anything like mine, mine is usually a pretty chatty kind of a guy. In fact, in the Buddhist tradition, they talk about the monkey mind. There's a wonderful Catholic teacher named Martin Laird. He calls it the cocktail party. And I taught a class once where one of the students said, mine is like a cocktail party with a monkey running amok in the middle of it. So there you go. So we have these wordy, kind of chatty consciousnesses. And contemplation is an invitation to just go a little bit deeper. And to recognize that between all the thoughts and all the words and all the images or whatever might be happening in your brain, all the memories of the movie you saw last night, in between all of that is deep, vast silence. And it's always there. And it's always present. We do not have to generate it. We do not have to create it. It is given to us. The theological word here is grace. Silence is a grace that is available to all of us. And we're invited into that when we enter into this place of wordless prayer. So the next element, mind and heart. And that might be really helpful for us in the West, because I think we have this kind of conversation. I think it is a conversation, that the mind does the thinking and the heart does the feeling. However you might want to play with that. Another way of looking at it is that the mind is our conversations, our narratives. And then the heart is our embodiment. It's the incarnation, it's the flesh and blood. But I think what this definition tells us is that mind and heart, there's a non-duality here. That this prayer is not about separating the one from the other. It's not about getting in your head and thinking cool thoughts about Jesus or being silent about Jesus. That's a piece of it. But it's about that silence in our bodies, in our hearts. In fact, the Orthodox talk about in the prayer of the heart, and they talk about taking the silence from the mind into the heart, so that we literally are the silence, so that we carry this. It's not an absolute silence. I mean, absolute silence would be like absolute zero temperature. There would be no life. It's a relative silence. Go deep enough into your inner silence, and you'll hear your breath, and you'll feel your pulse, and you'll feel your tummy gurgling. So all silence is relative. But the silence, the vastness of God is always there. So you've got this non-duality of mind and heart, or brain and body. But you've also got this other non-duality. As one friend of mine, Gareth Higgins, says, God is not elsewhere. God is not elsewhere. And I think this is one of the fundamental fictions that we have in our culture, is that, I'm here and God is way up there. And I somehow have to cross the chasm, by confessing my sins, or by reading Bible, or by being, on the straight and narrow, or however, whatever we do to earn salvation. Throw all that out the window. God is nearer to you than you are to yourself. As it says in the Bible, in him we live and move and have our being. God is not elsewhere. Just as we can touch the silence, so we can touch the presence of God. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have some sort of mystical experience. Isaiah says that you're a hidden God. So I think sometimes when God comes to us in a very, very quiet way. But that doesn't mean God's not there. So mind and heart. Let's see, what was the next one? I think it was love and adoration. Love and adoration. So this isn't, I think the way to look at this, Mr. Spock would have a hard time with contemplation. It isn't sterile. It isn't just some sort of intellectual exercise. But it's really about, mind and heart, and it's about offering that. It's about donation. It's about giving yourself. The Trappist monks talk about giving themselves to monastic life. Well, in contemplation, we are invited to give ourselves to the love of God. And then finally, and again, this is very Christian language, but in a Christian sense, contemplation is about Jesus and his mysteries. Now, that's kind of Catholic language, but I think it's really universal, because I think the mysteries of Jesus, it's more than just, like the mysteries of the Rosary. That's one way to enter into it. But I think the mysteries of Jesus are kind of the fullness of what we see in his life and in his ministry. And I talked earlier about how mystery has this, or mysticism has this quality of your eyes shut and your mouth closed. But if you look in the New Testament, the word mystery, which again is related to it, when St. Paul uses the word mystery, he always talks about the mysteries of God that are being made revealed in Jesus. And what do we see revealed in Jesus? We see infinite divine love. We see mercy. We see forgiveness. We see healing. We see building community. We see compassion. Those are the mysteries of Christ. So we're called to bring our heart and love and adoration into this place of silence and stillness, so that we can meet the true source of all of our love and adoration. It's like going to the ultimate gas station and being filled. You could say, traditional kind of Pentecostal language, being filled with the Holy Spirit, being filled with the love of God. This is what we are invited into in the prayer of silence and contemplation.